Right, so 6.1 kind of starts into some new things. We're going to talk about functions, polynomials, good stuff like that. So, with function operations, we're going to add, subtract, multiply, and divide these functions. Now, there's a couple ways to think about it, but the big thing is you can either do them individually or you can combine them and then do it. So, identify the domain of both functions first off. So, my first function is g of x is equal to x plus 1. Well, as long as there's no fraction, my domain is going to be all real numbers. So same way here, second function, f of x equals x squared plus x, my domain is going to be all real numbers. So as long as there's no fractions, we're good. And we'll get to ones that kind of change that. So f plus g of x. That means I'm going to take f of x, and I'm going to add it to g of x. So I'm going to take x squared plus x, and I'm going to say plus x plus 1. Well, x squared's by itself, so I can't do anything else with that. X plus x would give me 2x, and 1 gives me 1. So f plus g of x is equal to x squared plus 2x plus 1. The domain, again, for that function would be all real numbers because there's no fractions. All right, 2, we're going to subtract. So we're going to take f of x and subtract g of x. Notice I put g of x in parentheses when I plugged it in because when you subtract, you have to distribute the negative, and people kind of forget to do that. So I'm going to get x squared, x minus x cancels, and I get negative 1. So f minus g of x would be x squared minus 1. Again, the domain would be all real numbers because there's no fractions. All right, next up, f times g of x. So we're going to take f of x, and we're going to multiply it by g of x. So I'm going to take x squared plus x, put it in parentheses, and multiply it by x plus 1. And yes, you do have to FOIL. All right, so I'm going to get x cubed plus x squared plus x squared plus x. So my final answer would be x cubed plus 2x squared plus x. Okay, my domain would be all real numbers because I have no fractions. Lastly, you have f divided by g of x. Now, if I do this, I get x squared plus x over x plus 1. So before I even go out and simplify, I need to figure out my domain. Well, everything except for x can't be negative 1. So I can do all real numbers except x cannot be negative 1. That's my domain because it gives me 0 on the bottom of a fraction, right? So this is a fraction. If you get 0 on the bottom of your fraction, that means your domain is going to be different. It's not going to be all real numbers. So then I would look at the top. I'd factor it. Notice x plus 1's on top and bottom, so that cancels. So my answer would literally just be x. But the domain is all real numbers. X cannot be negative 1. Okay? Threw up some independent practice functions up here for you. Go ahead and try that. So pause the video, try the domain of f, domain of g. F plus g of x. So I'm going to write this one in the correct order. X squared plus 4x minus 5. Again, your domain would be all real numbers. Next one. F minus g of x, so 4x minus 5 minus x squared. Again, domain would be all real numbers. F times g, 4x minus 5 times x squared. We get 4x cubed minus 5x squared. Domain's still all real numbers. And then lastly, you got division. Right, so you set the bottom equal to 0 and you'd solve it. So x can't be 0. So it's all real numbers except for x can't be 0. And sometimes just plugging it in is all you can do on division. You can't simplify it, so that's all it is. So that's some good independent practice. Now we get into use the functions you found in the previous example to help you evaluate the following. So f plus g of 3. Well, we already found f plus g, right? It's right here. But now I'm just going to plug in 3. So I'm going to say 3 squared plus 4 times 3 minus 5. That would be 9 plus 12 minus 5, which would be 21 minus 5, which would be 16. So f plus g of 3 is 16. F minus g of negative 2, again, we found f minus g. Let's plug in negative 2. So negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 minus 5. It's going to be a negative 4 minus 8 minus 5, which would be negative 17. Same thing. I've already found f times g, but now I'm going to plug in negative 1. So this would be 4 times negative 1 minus 5 times 1. Negative 4 minus 5, which would be negative 9. And lastly, again, you already found the answers. You just got to plug in the number. And solve it. So that's really all this is. All right. For this one, we're going to have some paper homework, so make sure you get that done. Turn it in. If you have any questions, please let me know.